All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. This is part of what's become a kind of a monthly webinar with various partners and outstanding companies that have a stake in our area, and we'd like to spotlight them and spotlight some of our programs that work really well with them. So today we're going to be talking about technology and the impact that technology has in the logistics industry and other industries, of course. And we've got Mike Riccio with us from Leonards, which is a great company. He's going to talk all about it. They're our joint sponsor for this event. The other sponsor, of course, is RIT's Masters in Technology, Innovation Management, and Entrepreneurship, which I happen to direct as program director. It's a fabulous program that has two different tracks, both of which are STEM designated. The program itself focuses on the one hand, if you're an aspiring tech executive, you go down the tech management track, learning how to leverage and commercialize and optimize technology for your organization, kind of like a tech-focused MBA. And the other track is if you have a great idea in the tech space and you want to learn how to find the opportunity, commercialize it, access funding, and go out there and be the next, well, maybe Zoom or a product that Mike can buy and implement in his company. So that's our program. And as I said, I'm very grateful to have a tech-focused entrepreneur with us. And I'll hand it over to Mike to let him introduce himself. Mike, go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Stephen. I don't know how tech savvy I am, but certainly we utilize technology quite a bit. So I'm Mike Riccio. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of a company called Leonards Express. We're a transportation provider here in Farmington, New York. So just right down the road, exit 44 off the thruway. And we're a hybrid model where we run two divisions. One division is a trucking company. Currently, we operate 650 trucks and just under 1,000 trailers, providing transportation services for all sorts of industries. Specifically, or most of our concentration is in consumer goods as well as grocery industry. And then we run a 3PL brokerage division that provides 3PL services as well as over-the-road brokerage services for those same customers as well as additional customers. We're by transportation size, we're medium size. We're going to do at this point with a new acquisition around 275 million in revenue, which isn't really small, but it isn't big either in the transportation space. There's quite a separation. There's either really large companies or really small companies, and not many in between. And we're in that in between space. And it's a family-owned business. I'm part of the family that owns the business. My three brother-in-laws own the business, and I've been around since day one, which was we started Leonards in 2001. We all previously worked together at a family business that sold that business, and then started Leonards in 2001. So I don't
Outstanding.
Maybe my facial hair is showing that this will be my 34th. I'm starting my 34th year, so it's kind of an interesting time in this space right now, and actually it's really exciting. Yeah, there's just a lot going on right now, both in the industry as well as we talked about earlier, technology.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue into the first question that I have for you that I'd like to talk about. So the thing I think about most these days as it relates to freight, generally speaking, and technology is tracking, but tracking shipments and conditions and all that. But as it relates to your industry and to your business, what does the tech landscape look like? I mean, how has it evolved over your timeline, and what are some of the opportunities that you identify technology for in order to enhance how you do business?
Yeah, well, as I indicated, being my 34th year, in 2001, we didn't have, it's like night and day. I mean, it's really the transportation or logistics industry as a whole, there are a few exceptions, but as a whole was really quite slow to adopt technology, right? There was not a lot of change going on. It was pretty vanilla, pretty basic. And it's a little bit of a hyperbole, but we're really in a technology revolution right now. The landscape is just changing daily, changing very quickly. In fact, you've really got to be careful because sometimes it's easy to get sucked into the new and sexy and the greatest thing coming down the pike as far as technology goes. But you hit on the nail on the head, Stephen. The big umbrella that we're looking at is automation. So there's automation going on in all sorts of types of processes, from visibility to booking up freight, connectivity to documentation and moving, document processing, through the, for parking for trucks, as far as, where's the best place to park, because that's a real issue today in the trucking, to routing technology. Some of the larger firms have had routing technology. Every day it's like putting a puzzle together. Our team comes in and says, I have this group of loads I've got to cover. I have this group of trucks that I've got, and I've got to put these things together in the most cost-efficient, productive manner. And you have to take in all the variables such as weather and drivers, hours and customers' requirements. And, there's technology that's putting that together to put the vehicle on the load, whether it be our vehicle or an outside vehicle. And whether you want to call it the Amazon effect, it's all about visibility today. Where is my product? Where is it in the supply chain? COVID has, as many of you may know, reduced inventories. There's not a lot of inventory stock or safety stock in the marketplace today. So what used to not be a sensitive load is now a sensitive load. It used to be, you knew if you were hauling a load of strawberries or a load of raspberries, or, some sort of fruit. We haul a lot of bananas. So, you knew they're temperature sensitive, time sensitive, they have a shelf life. But if you had a load of water, or you had a load of soda, or you had a load of cereal, a load of toilet paper, we haul a lot of toilet paper, it wasn't time sensitive. Well, now it is, because the demand is such that is high. There isn't a lot of toilet paper in the warehouse to ship and to replenish. So it's on your truck. And if your truck doesn't make it there, and so the customer wants to know at all times. So there's been a lot of change very quickly. It's been hard to kind of keep up with. And, so it's really, but I would say the two biggest things are automation and visibility.
Automation and visibility. So that's interesting. Now so if you're thinking about it when you were first starting this business, those two things, automation, maybe not. Visibility has always been important to whatever degree you could get it, right? So back then, when you were looking at the business and the landscape, were there opportunities in tech that an entrepreneur came in and kind of solved some of these visibility problems? Or has it been something where there was always some kind of baseline and it's evolved? Which would you say? Was it incremental, or was it like this radical shift?
I think it depends. So on the visibility, I really think it's been incremental. I think the visibility has been there. Somebody like a UPS or somebody like a Federal Express or a DHL that was larger, that had, to be very honest, bigger pocketbooks, that had, or had the talent and to be able to purchase the technology. So I think that has incrementally grown. On the automation side, I think that's just, for us, feels like it's flipped a switch, right? There's always been, when you're doing your business, what's the most productive and efficient way to do a specific process, whether that be onboarding a new vendor, whether that be paying one of your vendors, whether that be dealing with paperwork internally. And really, we feel that some people have come in and just provided a solution in a lot of areas where there was not automation, at least from a touchless perspective, and it provided that for us. So it kind of depends on what you're looking at. My personal opinion is the visibility has been more of an incremental, and the document automation and some of the other communication that's gone on has been more of a quicker change, and somebody's coming to solve that problem.
So it's probably a double-edged sword though, right? On the one hand, I'm sure there are several things where you're thanking your lucky stars that some tech solution came in and helped you solve. But on the other hand, it probably opened up vulnerabilities or caused other issues. Do you have any insight onto that, on how, on the one hand, yeah, this is great, but on the other hand, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, what happened here? Any insight on that?
Well, we kind of look at it so a little bit. So it depends on what path you want to go. So right, there's the whole security side, right, which is become a job in itself, right? Just from phishing attempts, from data security to who owns the data, which is going on in many different industries, and it's now really starting to creep in. So as technology has changed, we've got new problems that we didn't have to worry. We didn't have to worry about securing our data before. We didn't have to worry about someone clicking an email and clicking on a PDF file and letting in a virus. We didn't have to worry about running out of storage space and having our hard drive freeze up. And everything is done on the computer today, right? We all know what it's like if we can't get on a Zoom call, or if our laptop doesn't work, or our desktop doesn't work. We used to be paper, right? Our dispatching was all done via what we call dispatch sheets. Well, now if we have a hard drive crash and we don't have a backup, we don't have a way to operate our business. So you had to be thinking about backup plans and emergency plans that you really didn't have to worry about before. Before, you had to worry about a weather event and how that was going to impact where your trucks were, which we still have to worry about, a physical event. But if you have a systems error, it can, we're starting to see that can take down your whole company. On the other side of the fence, what we saw is there were so many available technologies that we felt were beneficial. We kind of got to a point personally where we had too many pieces of technology that we really were not utilizing. We were using them half-assed, to call a spade a spade. And so what we did is we did a little bit of a reconciliation. We kind of went through all of our software and said, are we using it, yes or no? And if we're not, why? And should we be? And if we're not, and we should be, what do we got to do to get using it? If we're not and we shouldn't be, then let's get out of this and make it go away. And then if we are using it, are we using it to its fullest potential? And then we went through and kind of, almost like a SWOT analysis, and did a hierarchy of what needs to be attacked first to least, because we really were underutilizing a lot of our technology. And so we had all this technology, but we really weren't using it to our full potential. We felt good about ourselves, but a lot of times we really weren't getting the return on the technology because we were not being more targeted on what really was most important to our operation. And for every operation, it's a little bit different, right? What might be important to us might be completely different to another competitor of ours.
It's funny when you were talking about dispatch sheets and the paperized version of transport maintenance, let's say. It made me think of an example. I used to use a different textbook than I do now, and one of the examples that the textbook gave, this was like 10 years ago, one of the examples that the textbook gave in talking about how I would choose my method of transportation was, what might I do for a shipment of canceled checks? And back in 2010, the students were like, the check, wait a minute. Oh yeah, no, when you like write and then 5 years after that, they're going, what do you mean a canceled check? And then I stopped using the example because no one knew what a canceled check was.
Right.
Right. So, but it's the same kind of thing, with digitization and automation of that. But no, that's interesting. So on the one hand, there's a technological solution for every problem, but then the problem it creates is that you use only half of what the technological solution can provide. Right. So it opens up the other kind of inefficiency there too.
And on the some of the 3PL side, from a truck brokerage perspective, right? Not necessarily a full-blown 3PL, but from a truck brokerage, you've got the digitization and automation of the booking process and the disintermediation of the industry. And so there's concern is, okay, the shipper right now, the intermediary is providing capacity, is an aggregator of capacity for their shipper, and a sales solution for their carriers, whether it be a rail carrier, a road carrier, or a ship line or steamship line. But if technology is such that those guys can now talk to each other more efficiently and effectively without that middle person, and now they can see where all the equipment is and they can go get the equipment themselves. Is there a threat of disintermediation due to technology of taking a whole segment of the 3PL industry out of the industry? I personally don't think you'll see a full disintermediation, because, you've seen that in the newspaper, we've seen that in print, we've seen that in real estate, we've seen that in a lot of different types of industries that you would think, but now when they, hotels, right, with Airbnb and such, that you can deal directly with the end user. There's a certain threat that technology can bring to a straight truck broker that isn't providing other 3PL services, whether it be warehousing or rail or intermodal or other types of services for their shipper. Because if the shipper wants to take the time and put the effort into doing that, they can get all the technology today as far as visibility to see where the equipment is. What's happened is COVID has done, one of the beautiful unintended consequences of COVID, although it's been a tragic situation, has brought the supply chain to light, and the importance of the supply chain and the importance of what we all do. And our shippers, we're finding out, are really more concerned about producing whatever they produce and doing a better job at that and trying to meet demand versus creating their own internal 3PL to go out and disintermediate, the industry. But there is a certain threat to that technology could bring, depending on how it continues to evolve in the industry.
Yeah. And what's interesting too about those competitive dynamics is I had a conversation with someone from a former employee of FedEx, and we were chatting about did you all view who did you view as the biggest competitor? Was it the UPSs of the world? Was it the 3PLs and so on? And they actually mentioned to me that they were more concerned about Amazon because of that exact thing, that they're taking out the need for those intermediaries to help. And that whole thing it really is an innovation, which kind of leads me to my next question. Our program is focused on identifying, commercializing, and then exploiting and monetizing innovations, broadly speaking.
Yeah.
So in the past 20 some odd years, or even prior businesses, this doesn't have to be to freight, but in prior businesses that you've been involved in, what have been some of the biggest innovations that you've seen that have just radically changed the way that you do business on a day-to-day basis?
I would say specifically there's a couple facets. The first facet that's radically changed on our over-the-road transportation side has been the load boards and the visibility for everybody to see what's going on in the market, right? You can, when you are a owner operator, a one truck or two truck operator, you didn't have visibility to how many loads were available in Buffalo, New York today versus how many trucks. You now can get that information, and you can get that information quickly. So not only the ability to see what's going on in the market, you wouldn't see that before. And so a truck can say, geez, I see there's 50 loads posted today and there's one truck posted. Well, I'm going to, I know what I'm going to do with my truck. I've got the leverage here, and I'm going to get this. I'm going to maximize that as best I can. And so that has really changed the dynamic of the market, and also the speed at which it's changing. Just the speed today on how things are done, how quickly things need to get done, how quickly things are changing from 10 loads in an area for every truck to 10 trucks in a load in every area, and back and forth. And the ability for everybody to see that and then try to react has really been, I know that's a little bit more general maybe than what you were looking for.
No.
But that really is, people can see, they have it on their phones today, right? They all have accounts to the various, market trend. You can see the market trends and how they're occurring, and you can see it by hour now. If you you can subscribe to a company called Freight Waves, which has a product called Sonar, and you can look right down to the micro level, in a specific city, really hour by hour on how the capacity is changing, and it's all color coded, and and it's all sorts of bars and graphs, and so the average individual can get that data quickly and then make a business decision.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was going to mention I get an email from FreightWays every day. We actually work with them on gathering some data. They have a great team there.
Yeah.
But that visibility piece, right? It's what you said before. I mean, that's the big tech focused innovation that's changed the way logistics is operated. I mean, so the other thing too, when you think about it, right? So there's one thing in saying, all right, this is an innovative technology. It's changed the way we do business. Great. But on the other hand, the question always pops up, cui bono, right? Who benefits? So if the individual gets more access to the information and the data, and the owner operator that has 2 trucks, so do you. So what have been the biggest gains that you've taken advantage of as it relates to that visibility and that tech? Has it been profit opportunities? Has it been efficiencies? Has it been, predictive modeling to figure out what might happen? What have you seen? What are the biggest gains that you've experienced?
Yeah, I think so a couple things. It's given us the ability to scale, right? So having that process and having the technology to do certain, daily rote tasks allows us to take our people and put them to more meaningful, these tasks still get done, and it's not that they're not important, but if we can automate that so that we can take the individual that was doing that and use their skill sets for something more strategic down the road, that is able to help us scale our business. It's also allowed us to be more nimble and flexible to react to what's going on in the market. And because the market is changing so rapidly daily, you have to be nimble and you have to be on top of it and monitoring it, because if you're not, you're going to find yourself on the wrong end, and you're really going to be in trouble. You've got to have the ability to stay true to yourself and your business model, but you have to be able to react quickly to changing market conditions. It's allowed us to attract more talent. We've been able to, if you have technology that allows things to be more efficient and processes to be more productive, people, obviously you have the right culture, but people, which really is number one, but more talent. It's okay. These guys, they're more innovative. They're more progressive in their approach to managing this in this industry. And maybe we want to be there, and I want to work for this company. And honestly, on a basic level, it allows you to survive. it allows you to survive. But the number one, to go back, it's about reducing costs, right? The market will be what the market is. Yeah. And we're never going to predict the market. And we consistently preach to our team, like on our trucking side, we run about 3 million miles a month. Our trucks average 7.6 miles per gallon. If we raise that to 7.7 miles per gallon, that's a lot of money to our bottom line. A lot of cost savings, because right now fuel is, diesel fuel is, $2.91 a gallon, and you run 3 million miles a month. You can do the math. There you go. So, and we're never going to be able to control. No one does, the market. So it's about what can we do to be more cost effective. If we take cost out, we're going to be more, productive. We're going to be more profitable, and we're going to be able to provide people more, other people additional jobs and give back to the community. So it's about really reducing our costs to improve the efficiencies has really been the biggest gain.
Yeah, and those are the innovations that don't have the broad swath and the sex appeal, let's say, for lack of a better term.
You've hit the nail on the head, Stephen. They're not sexy, right? You go to tell people, look, we got to get to 7.7. Well, and that's just not, it's not a whiz bang cool technology, right? I mean,
I got excited about it. Candidly, I'm thinking about all the analytics we could do to help you optimize that, but that's certainly not the thing that's going to make Inc. magazine, we saved a
Right.
10% freight reduction, but
Right.
it's a big deal, right? It's
a big deal.
big.
It's
Yeah.
a big, because on the at least on our trucking side, it's really a cost intensive, it's not, a new truck today is $150,000. A new refrigerated trailer today's $75,000 to $80,000. So you got a couple $100,000 investment there, and you bet you need to get, and you're getting 7.6 miles per gallon. Really? I mean, it's almost but so it's all about using the technology. We have all sorts of tools to help with our fuel mileage, and that's just one example of many different examples, but it's about improving the efficiency to reduce your costs, to improve your bottom line. And it's in really minuscule increments, right? It turns into a quarter, which hopefully turns into $1, which hopefully turns into more down the road, right? Exponentially.
So then, and I could talk about efficiencies all day long. It's what I do for a living, but to spare everyone else on the call, when you look at the landscape of your business, what's your pain point? I mean, what's a thing where you're going, gosh, I wish an innovation would come in and solve this? What is this? What do you think?
Well, I'll ramble for a few minutes while I think of what is this. I
Sure.
think that, certainly a challenge today is trying to, certainly a challenge today is trying to, you just want to get, what part of the problem is you're trying to get through the day with blocking and tackling. And it's really having the time to really map out and follow what your short-term and long-term plans are. This today is really there. It isn't going to be the answer I think you're completely looking for, but it's really having the right people here to analyze the amount of data that's coming in and what's data is really important and what's just ancillary, what's just noise. And we're still sometimes working through some of that. And so some of that's really more of an internal problem than an external product or external service. It's about, as the industry has changed, we're really looking for financial people. We're really looking for IT type people, right? Data engineers and data scientists and those types of individuals to come in, take our data, look at it, and so that we can use that data to make better data-driven decisions versus emotional decisions. We make a lot of good data-driven decisions, but we could do some things way better and we're kind of in that metamorphosis, right? You go from, trucking 101. We grew up truckers, right? That's, was kind of, behind the, I didn't, but my three brother-in-laws did, behind the, or two of them did, driving in a truck. And now really it has to be a data-driven decision without losing the human element. So I would say it's really finding the right people to understand your data, make sure that you're cleaning the data to make sure that's good data to use. So I know that's not exactly what you were looking for, but our biggest challenge today is finding enough truck drivers, which is not a technology problem, right? There's just not enough truck drivers around for many different reasons. It's a multifaceted challenge. There's no one silver bullet. And so if you could find more truck drivers, that would be, or if there was somebody that could find more truck drivers, that would, and I know that world, and I know that side of the fence. But that's really, because whether it be on our trucking side, that's an issue, as well as on our 3PL side, because at some point in time, a truck has to move that freight, right? Even if it comes over on a ship, or even if it moves out via rail, typically somewhere along the line, a truck is getting it to the railhead, or taking it from the railhead to the customer, or taking it from the ship to a warehouse, or from the warehouse to a customer. And so really finding quality truck drivers is the biggest challenge. But from a technology standpoint, it's really more about finding the right people that understand numbers and look at our business in a different way. And we have a few folks from your university that work for us that do that and are kind of pushing the envelope and pushing us old timers a little bit to, hey, look, here, have you thought about this? I've ran this data and I've looked at it and we're like, no, we've never looked at it that way. And so it's kind of changing our mindset as to how to use that data in a more effective manner.
I was going to say there's good news and bad news. I can't find you more truck drivers, but I can find you graduates with STEM designated training from a large institution in your backyard. So half the problem I can solve for you. The other half, we're going to have one of them figure out how to do it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe in my summers I'll learn how to be an over-the-road trucker, but we'll see if my wife will like that. Maybe she will. I'll be on the road a lot. All right. So I think, so we've got a little time left and I want to do two things. I want to first ask you related to that and what you're looking for people. It's a perfect transition. I have one question for you. And then I just kind of want to open it up to anybody in the audience who has any questions. So my question is, and you kind of alluded to it, but maybe you could expand on it. What are the skill sets that you're specifically looking for? I know you mentioned that analytical mindset. When you're hiring folks, either for entry or mid-level or even senior level positions, what is it that you're looking for specifically in that candidate?
Yeah, it's general, but it's true. The first thing we look at is culture. I mean, we really try to walk the talk here. It's a family-owned business. Family is important to us. Being an open door policy is important to us. If you're a younger person just graduating, we recognize you may not have transportation or brokerage or 3PL experience or warehouse experience. And so we're going to teach you that side of the business, and how we do it is different than how somebody else does it. And everybody has their own unique spin and their own secret sauce and how they operate their business. And so really the first thing we look for is really a cultural fit. When we're in an interview, we like somebody who's done their homework on us, right? Asks us a few questions, has been on the website, understands a little bit of the basics as far as, the logistics industry and maybe some questions on how we do things. We're going to look at the second thing really in today's world is communication skills. It's even more important than ever. Phone skills, email, we don't want you, emailing like you text. And with Zoom today and communication, it's a lot more challenging, right? And so we're going to be, looking at kind of the communication skills, your initiative, right? How maybe you're applying for this job, but we see something else here that might be a fit. Would you be willing to, come in the door here and we could work out a plan to get you here in a career path to do something different? And one of the things that we've worked on here at Leonards is we recognize that there's not a lot of layers at Leonards, right? It's a family-owned business. There's not a lot of layers. So how do you provide job enrichment for someone that's coming in that knows that there's not going to be a lot of steps up the ladder? And so we've looked internally and recognized what training, what certifications, what other things can we offer from an enrichment standpoint. But really the big thing is the culture. Do we think you're going to fit in? And because if we get the culture right, there's going to be challenges. There always is, right? Even when people get along, there's challenges. It's how if you've got the right culture, you can typically work through those challenges a lot easier than if you're not a right fit. And we've, we're not right for everybody, right? Somebody might not be right for us, and sometimes we're not the right fit for someone else. And we've got to recognize that that's okay. But in addition to, past all some of those general topics, we're really, as our business matures and our life cycle grows, this is actually this Friday will be our 20th year.
Wow.
So it'll be, and it's bizarre to think back, 20 years ago, there was basically 5 of us and no trucks and where we are today. And so we need bright young minds that are going to look at things a little bit differently and push the envelope a little bit from an analytical perspective and from a data science perspective. And we're just starting that, right? I would say, to use a baseball analogy, I would say we're maybe at second base with that. We've got a ways to go, but we know that. So it's being open to that and understanding that.
Oh, that's perfect. And in the process of you saying that, one of those people you described, one of my current students, asked a question.
Okay.
So Sam wants to know, I read an article recently about lowering the truck driver age in various states. Do you believe that will help with the shortage?
We do think it will help. It certainly has to be managed effectively, right? I recognize this is not a knock on an 18-year-old, but I recognize somebody my age being concerned with an 18-year-old driving down the road in an 80,000-pound vehicle. We're part of the Transportation Association of New York. TANI is the acronym. TANI is lobbying Albany to lower that age for with specific training rules and specific guidelines, and that individual with a trainer for X amount of time before they can go on their own. There's an in-depth process. So I do, under the right circumstances. I don't think it's right for everything, right? I just don't think we should say, okay, here you go, Katie bar the door. But I do think there's reasonable areas to do this without really forsaking safety. And safety really should be the number one scenario. For example, this year now, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Association started hair follicle drug testing. That took about 60,000 drivers out of the marketplace, but that really was a good thing, right? You don't want those people driving your truck or a truck down the highway. And so there are some things that have reduced the driver pool, but really it's really was good because it was for safety. And so I think I feel that my personal opinion and our stance is there's a right balance and a right fit for that with the right training program.
So that's an interesting thing. And actually the next question is something I wanted to bring up. So I'm glad somebody did, because my father-in-law actually works in this space. His company, they announced today, are going or intended to go public. Too Simple. It's an automated truck company. And so Isaac asks, on a technical revolution in the trucking business, do you anticipate to try self-driving trucks very soon? If so, when? If no, why?
Okay, so I'm a believer in the self-driving trucks. I think that can only help the industry in the right spot. A self-driving truck, you're still going to need a truck driver. It's like an airplane pilot, right? You're still going to need someone to do a safety check. You're still going to be the whether fuel that truck via diesel fuel or electricity, depending on what type of truck you have. And so to answer Isaac's question directly, at the moment, we are not testing any self-driving trucks, partly because the majority of our business is in the Northeast, and a lot of those self-driving truck tests are out in the West. With this acquisition of this new company in Boise, Idaho, I was telling Stephen, I don't know who was on at the time, we closed tomorrow on a deal where we're buying 160 a trucking company out in just outside of Boise, Idaho. That may open up the door. But the main reason is the East. The second main reason is they're really specific companies are testing them out under specific conditions. And even some of the large trucking companies are there. It's a little bit too early of technology for us to adopt it at this point. But I do foresee that continuing. I do foresee that actually complementing what we do. I think there's been a bunch of debates and discussions about how it's going to hurt the industry or it's going to hurt different segments. I don't believe that. I think one thing that this industry has done a great job is always adapted really well to technology and changes. That's what we do. Every day is different. Every day we've got to figure out how we're going to meet the demands of our customers. So I think that there's a viable spot, and I think that if used kind of like the lowering the driver age, used in the right manner and in the right situation, I think makes a lot of sense. Especially if you're going warehouse to warehouse, right? And you're out west, and you're going from Reno, Nevada to Dallas, Texas, or just outside of Dallas. I mean, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, on the middle mile, it makes a ton of sense, right? The final mile, it's kind of a challenging thing
A
to
little more
envision the
challenging.
truck.
I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
not doable. It's just that you've got a lot more variables to deal with, both in reality and sometimes perceptually, right? And just convincing the public when they look and they don't see anybody up in that truck that they're passing or that truck's passing them, just getting past that mindset. And it's as much perception as it is anything else. Because to me, it's no different than a plane being on autopilot. We just don't think about it because none of us are in the cockpit and none of us see it, right? The pilot's not flying, and the co-pilot, he or she, they're making sure that everything's going the way it should be going.
Yeah, and I read too much science fiction not to worry about it. So we should get off this topic before I have a panic attack. All right, great question, Isaac. Thanks. Mike Johansson has a question. So how do you handle those who are incumbents in jobs who are protecting their position and perhaps resistant to change? Those who perhaps build walls against change with, let's say, the Internet of Things.
That's a good question. Very carefully. It's no one, like, I will tell you that I used to work for my father-in-law he owned a trucking company, and my father-in-law would move us about every year we would move. So in the first 20 years I worked for him, I had 19 different desks, and he would do that just to keep people on their toes. And for him, it was about change management. Change management is a very difficult task, and everybody deals with it differently. So to answer the question, if someone's put up walls, really the first thing we need to do is sit down and find out why. Were they somewhere before where they were promised there'd be no change and then the rug got pulled out from underneath them? Is there something going on in their personal lives? Prior to COVID, sometimes that wasn't really thought about. Is someone going through a divorce? Is someone going through a family illness? Those things impact how in your personal life, and I think we've become more aware of it in COVID, how that impacts your work life. And it's really about understanding why they've put up the wall, what is their concern, and then trying to be honest with how it's going to change. Because we're doing this right now. We bought a trucking company in Idaho. This week we've been in Idaho. Our HR has been there this week, and the CEO has been there this week, and our chief operating officer is there now. And we didn't tell them there was going to be no change, because we know there will be change. We've told them they all will have an opportunity to work at our company, and it may not be in their current role. But our goal is to keep everybody that is currently there. Most of them will stay in a current role, but some of them may be offered something to change, and being honest with them. So I think it's understanding why the wall has been put up. Once you understand what those reasons are, trying to deal with those in an honest and open manner. And then if their person's job responsibility is going to change and they don't want to do that, they don't want to make that change, if that's a good employee, because finding a good employee is hard today. It's like it's hard to find a good company to work for. It's just as hard to find a good employee. And we don't want to see employee leaves. When an employee leaves, we lose productivity, we lose efficiency, we lose money. That turnover costs us money. So it doesn't do us any good if we've got somebody that fits us culturally. And if they won't go to that new position, or they don't like how their job function is going to be changed, can we find something else that's going to work for them and work for us? Sometimes we can't. And then you have to have an open and honest discussion. But I think it's first understanding why the wall is up. And sometimes it's just people, they don't like change. And they say they do, but they don't, because it's scary and it's the unknown. And they've been doing something over and over, and they know what to anticipate. And now you're goofing everything up on me, and I got this going on. It brings me anxiety, and you have to talk to them about the anxiety and acknowledge it and make them know and let them know it's normal. How they feel is normal. Most of us, regardless of what we say, get nervous when something changes. It's how it is. And
technology has a way of heightening those nerves.
We've got, so I can tell you, so we would have individuals that did billing, right? So administratively, their job was to bill our loads and bill our customers. we've automated all of that. It's all done electronically now. And those individuals kept their jobs and they oversee that. And then we're using those individuals, sitting down with those individuals, finding out what their interests are. Where else do they want to be? What do they like about their job? What don't they like about their job? Has there been another job in the area or in the company that interests them? Because we've always got we have a lot going on. And it's like, oh, you have this skill set, you know, we could have you monitor your billing queue to make sure it gets done correctly and the system does it correctly. But 30% of your time, what do you think about doing this? And having those conversations. But their anxiety level was through the roof because they all thought they were going to get fired. You know, hey, we're bringing in this new piece of software that's gonna work me out of a job. And I get it. And so it's about having that communication and not making the assumptions. And I will tell you, we have not always done it perfectly. We have done things where we thought this was really cool, a real cool technology, and it had some unintended consequences that we had not anticipated. And it was like, oh, I didn't think that would make that person feel that way. So you've really got to sometimes slow down and think through all of the ramifications, even if that technology is going to be ultimately a benefit to you.
Yeah, you know, the one thing I was thinking about when you were responding to Isaac's question, which is true in many cases, I think, is that when a technology comes into the mix that seeks to completely automate a function, there's usually a 1.5 or 2-to-1 relationship between the amount of jobs it creates relative to that which it displaced. So in the trucking space, you know, it's moving people from physically driving the vehicles 100% of the time to a lot more jobs in terms of the engineering, the manufacturing, the design, the supervision. Yeah. And that's where I think not just in the 3PL space, just broadly speaking, I think that's where there's a lot of opportunities. So no, I think your points are well taken.
We're trying to put time and effort into the training, those other, right? You've got someone who did this all their life, and now maybe there's this. And so if they don't have that skill set, but you think that they can do that, you know, how do you train them, right? And providing them the right tools. Typically when someone leaves us, if someone leaves me in my department, I didn't always used to think this way, but you know, I guess as you get older, maybe you get a little bit wiser, is okay, what did I not do right? I'm the manager. I'm ultimately responsible. So did I not provide the right tools for that individual? Did I not provide the right training for that individual? Did I not provide the right environment for that individual? If I can answer all three of those honestly, yes, then sometimes maybe it just wasn't the right fit. Or if they found something that was going to better them in their career or their interest, you know, what can I say, right? You want to wish people well. But sometimes it's like, all right, maybe we didn't. So we've really put time and effort into our training, both internally as well as our communication, because you think you're communicating and sometimes you're not always communicating what you think you are.
All great points. And I think we're actually butting up towards the end. So with that, I want to thank you so much, Mike, for your time, willing to chat with us. And before everyone leaves, I'm going to put in the chat a quick one-sheeter to our master's program. And Mike, if you'd like to put anything or give anybody a link to check out your company, feel free to do so. Our joint sponsor was Leonards Express, a fantastic company in our local area who need a bunch of smart people, a lot of which I know are on the call, myself excluded, of course. I just talk about random things for a living. So thank you, Mike. I appreciate the time, and thank you everybody for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
All righty. Take care.
Thank you.